Right, I'm going to take these off, put the dominoes in the corners. But before I do that, put a pencil line, use the square, nice sharp pencil to get a clean line. These long ones, the bottoms, the centres, these bottoms, they're all obviously a bit which one's which, but these ones I'll just put big left, small right, small left, and I'll do the same up there, small right. I'm just going to use little temporary dominoes that I've sanded down. Some are a bit short, but they should be okay. I've just put a piece of timber on there, piece of 2x1. I was tempted to just use a piece of inch stuff, but there's going to be a wall here, so I'm going to end up packing this, probably more than this. But if you just put inch stuff in, your packer will wobble around on it. Plus I want to be getting a fixing in, or a good inch in, so it'll be coming through the centre of that. If, let's say, I put a screw there, it'd pull the board in there and it'd end up distorting it. So yeah, bit of 2x1. Give something solid to get me packers on. And I've left it short at the bottom there for the skirting. There might be a gap between that and the skirting. I did allow for a little bit, just there. Just so that I could get a decent timber on this end. But I've left it short. It's easier to add a piece on than trying to be cutting it off, because I've glued this piece on. Right, now they're all back on with the dominoes. Time to start making doors. Right, these are the boards for the doors. I cut them down to 100mm longer than I need. That gives me sort of 50mm to clean off each end. I'll whip them off with jigsaw. And I'm going to put a bit blade in. I've used this a couple of times, but it's still pretty sharp, I think. And use my long straight edge to put a straight edge on. I've got quite a lot to do, so it would save on emptying bags on the planer. Just put an initial straight edge on, so that they go through the table saw a bit easier. And I've got one of these rough cutting blades, quite thick. Should fly through this. I do it with the track saw when I've got quite a lot of boards to do, but like those ones for the face frame, you saw the first one, they just go straight over the planer, there's no problem. That bent one, I should have brought it out here, but by the time I've changed over the blade and set up my stools and everything, I've normally cut them. But like I say, when I've got a lot to do, it's a lot easier to get the track saw out, put a straight edge on there. Right, I'll go rip these. Right, next thing, plane one face, plane one edge square, rip them all to the same dimensions, just taking a fraction off, or as little as I have to, so they're all the same thickness, and then put them through the thicknesser on the edge and on the face. I'm going to skip that bit for filming because it's just going to take ages. Seen all that before. Right, they're all planed. I'm going to start cutting them up. These rails especially need to be as square as possible, so I've just checked that. I'm going to leave this piece on. I've just squared up one end of all of them, but I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I need 10. So what I've done is stood them up by each other, and I can look down them now. One of these is for the top rails, so I'm going to pick the bentest, the most bent, which I think is this one that I've put on the end. It's one of these three, but those two don't look as bad as that one. So that one I'm going to put to one side for the rails, for the top rails, and then I'll cut these ones to the length of the doors. I'm going to put an extended stop, extend my fence down here, put an extended stop on, so they're all exactly the same size. Right, nice long piece of wood. I could hook my tape on here, and I'll screw a piece on, then when I'm putting these big bits of timber in, I'm not banging it, it shouldn't move. That's the plan. One day I'll build a nice straight bench, but that's another day. I'm going to extend the shed that way, which means I can move my saw up there. That means I can get 8 foot up to about here, then it don't interfere with me sled. Doesn't matter that it's not touching along here. What's important is that I get this tight up against here and it cuts square. I've just cut one. Nice clean cut all the way around. But before I get carried away, I'm going to take this one next door and actually stand it in the carcass, in the frame. Yep, that's good. I'll cut the rest. I'm going to start cutting the rails. I've got a drawing with measurements on, but I've just taken measurements off the cupboard. So I've got 850 overall for the little one, 937 for the pair of doors on the big one, big pair, and then I've got a single door where the shelves are. That one's fairly simple. These two, what I'll deduct is 2mm off for each side, and then 2mm off for the middle, so 6mm overall, so 6 off that is 844, 6 off that's 931. So what I'll do is divide that by 2, and that'll give me the size of the doors. Same there, divide that by 2, gives me the width of the doors. So 844 will be 422, 931 will be 450, 465 and a half, 465. Yeah, that's right. So now I can work out the length of my rails. So 2 offcuts. This should be the size of my stiles. And for this top one I want 422. So if I put 422 there, that gives me 265. Next one's 465. So I've got 308. Oops, 308. And then the last one 468. Just about there. That gives me 311. Oh, I'm taking 2mm off that. Minus 4mm. So 464. Which is there. 307. I'm just going to check all this again in case I'm talking bollocks, but then I can cut all my rails to that length. Just check my measurements, and these three that are on the big doors, on the big wardrobe, 308 and 307, which is correct because I did make those three doors the same, you know, minus that upright that's in the middle, so they're right. This one seems right by my calculations. I'm just going to check these big measurements first, but they sound right. Just need to check that one. I'll cut the rails. I'll cut the big ones first, because if I cock those up for some reason, I can cut them down to make the smaller ones. So first thing I'm going to do is square up all the ends of my boards. I used to have a stop here that you could slide and it lifted up, but it jammed one day and I fixed it with an hammer. So now I've got to square them up before I fix the stop on. I had 307 there, 308 there. I'm going to make them all 308. So all those three doors are exactly the same that are in the big cupboard. And on these cuts I'll leave the line in. I'd prefer the doors to be a fraction too big. I can always plane a fraction off, fit them. I don't know if you can see it, but the laser is quite good on this. For, you know, just getting it set up, and it's dotted because it's coming through this guard. If you lift it up, you get a solid line. That's what you get when you cut. The stop's got chamfers on it so that any crud doesn't interfere. That's just a fraction over 308. So that's what I prefer. And as I've said before, when I set my stop, I quite often like to just check there's no crap behind first, but I put it in as if I'm cutting my first one. You see how it banged against there. When you're cutting your next one, you'll bang it, and the first one won't be the same as all the ones that follow afterwards. So I know that's been a bit pedantic, but sometimes a millimetre matters. Right, that one's a millimetre too big. Boards, I think I'm going to leave that. It's like I said, I'd prefer to plane off a millimetre on the door. So now everything's cut to length. That's rubbish, but they're my rails behind there. And I've laid all these out, I've balanced them in the middle, so they should sit comfortably. Trying to get everything square to that, and all these straight in a line. And I can see then which ones are more bent than others. Need a little bit of space in between just so that they can do their own thing. What I'll do is I'll look down them and I'll pick out the straightest. What I need is one straight one for there, for where that door shuts. I need a pair of straight ones that go down the middle there, and a pair of straight ones that go down the middle there. The bend ones I can put towards the hinge side because the hinges will help pull those straight, but the straight ones need to go down the middle because there's nothing to hold them. My worry then is how they meet at the top there. So once I've picked out the straightest, I'll lay them out so it'll be hinge side, so a bent one, straight one, straight one. And what I'll do is sit them on here like this, and you see how these two are sitting level. I'll go to the other end. You see that one's just sitting up a little bit there, so that's not much good. But I'll shuffle them around and I'll try and make it so that the ends of the two that meet in the middle there, top and bottom, sit cleanly like that. So now I'll put a little less on the end here. 5 of the straightest that I need. So that's 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5 for the ones that join in the middle and touch in the middle. So what I'll do is I'll lay these down and I'll try and pair them up so the ends are touching, like I was saying. Okay, so now I've got 2 pairs and a single one. So 1 pair, 2 pairs and a single one. Got a bent one against the hinge, a straight one for the clapping edge. And then here I've got 2 straight ones, and they're sitting almost flush at that end, just there and just there. They're just very, very slightly out here. Same with this one, just very, very slightly out there. And the bent ones, you see how it's sitting a bit lower, are against the hinge side. So that'll be a little cupboard, big cupboard, then one's there, and then a small cupboard. So on the top, I'm going to go around the room, left to right. I'm going to put 1 and a hinge. That'll just be 1. That'll be 2, 2 and a hinge, 3, hinge, 3, 4, 4 and a hinge, and 5 and a hinge. So now I can lay these out with the rails in between, mark the faces like that. I need to put faces up. Same on that last one. I'll clamp them together, flush at this end. I can mark out where the middle rail is, I think. Bottom rail is going to be flush with this. Top rail is going to be flush with that. So really I only need to know where the middle rail is. Right, so they're all clamped with the inside edge pointing upwards. I've just used one of the bottom rails to mark off where the bottom rail is going to go. I got them as square as I could and you put it on that side. Same there, look. So from the bottom of the door to the bottom of this rail, I've got 910mm plus the plinth, the base and the plinth. Should bring this point here, middle of the rail somewhere, to about a metre there. I raised them slightly. A metre is, in my head, it's the standard height for a handle. So I don't know, I chose a metre there. And the big ass doors, that's going to be a big panel. But that's what I drew, that's what I sent, that's what's been confirmed and approved. So that's what I'm building. I'm going to build it as close as I can to the drawing. So yeah, I'll put that there, square it over, mark where that one's going to go. And I've done the same at the top there. Just used one of the pieces flush with that top, just to mark where that's going to go. But I'm going to be working off the stops for this one anyway. And then the bottom one, when it comes to dominoes, the first one will go off the stop, so that it should finish flush. And then the next two, probably have to use pencil lines. So, squared that over, checked it by squaring it the other way. And I just move my clamps close to this point. Move my clamps close to this point so that they're all touching. And then just use one of these timbers to mark it as accurately as I could. A sharp pencil. Use a bit of emery paper, very fine emery paper. .240. Just gives you a nice sharp point. Too bad. That panel doesn't look quite as tall as I was thinking. But got my face marks. This is number 1. I stacked them in order, so 2, 3, 4, 5. So 1, 1. So I'll put a 1 on there. Mark the face. Put a 1 on there. I'll just define it a little bit. And this has got 2 faces, or 2 face edges. Same there. Right, so that's 5 doors laid out, all the pieces, faces marked, inside edges marked. I'll stack them to one side and I'll sit them down one at a time. I'll have to put them together properly like I did that first one, clamp them together and mark where these dominoes are going to go. Bugger. Got to go shopping for some glue anyway. See if I can get a 24-inch version of this. I think that's 18.